In Kazakhstan, the craft developed over the centuries, leaving a legacy of unique products of artisans, amazing wealth of artistic imagination, and the perfection of form, a respect for one's heritage, traditional cultural values. These are the main tasks of the current generation. The history of folk crafts is a record of creative research and the discoveries of folk artists. The art of the Kazakh people, their national traits and traditions, were formed and perfected for centuries. Folk art stores in itself a historical memory and national heritage. Masters of folk art have bit by bit collected and continue to collect the experience of previous generations, multiplying them and transferring their skills from one generation to the next. Wood, animal bones, stone. These are the materials that are abundant in nature. Human beings from immemorial time have used these materials in accordance with their properties and qualities. The talent to apply these natural qualities of materials allows the creation of unique masterpieces, which eventually become the cultural heritage of an entire nation. Amazingly, the contrasting nature of Kazakhstan was not the only main source of creative inspiration in art, but it also gave raw materials for folk wood carving craftsmen. Wood carving is a synthesis of the objective as well as spiritual work, formed throughout the history of the Kazakh people. This type of applied art is embodied in many forms. It includes decorating furniture and houses, as well as the creation of huge carved panels and small figures. Wood carving, passed throughout the centuries, has not lost its relevance and popularity, and is experiencing its second birth in the skillful hands of masters. They revive the unique ancient craft and bring fresh ideas, new elements, and revive the interests of the younger generation in this art. We happen to get acquainted with the amazing master, Temir Begimbet, who mastered this ancient art and made it into the business of his life. Wood carving is not an easy art. It requires patience, diligence, thoroughness, and skill. Temir Begimbet, using various folk techniques, revives the art of artistic wood carving and develops it with the help of his talent. The master began his creative career with studying at the Applied Art School, and he worked as an artistic designer and restorer. Wood is an amazing material. You can admire it forever. When Temir Begimbet, with the touch of his skillful hands, gives them a second life, the world acquires a special new masterpiece. The wood and the hands of the artist are an eternal creative union. When we asked the master which wood is better for carving, soft or hard, he told us that each breed is good in its place. Any log or dried board without cracks and not rotten is valuable material. Each of them has its own dignity and beauty. It is easy to process and easier to achieve the required shape and relief from soft wood such as linden, aspen, poplar, adler, chestnut, and cedar. The solid textured trees, despite the difficulty of processing, have their own advantages. These products become beautiful without tinting. They are polished to shine and very durable. It is necessary to remember that wood as a material is an integral part of the future product. The artistic level of the product largely depends on the correct choice of the breed. It is possible to perform the same work from different breeds, and as a result, we obtain completely different results in terms of quality. The ability to correctly use the material comes only with practice. But the favorite types of trees of the master is the apple tree, which he most often uses in his works. The artist uses for the skillful carving the full variety of all kinds of instruments. He carefully processes the wood and gives the desired shape. He painstakingly saws off the unnecessary pieces of wood, using various tools and shapes, and then processes to a clean finish. He cleans from the rough bark of the tree and grinds and then achieves a smoothness and uniformity of the entire surface. The artist uses various techniques of carving, intensive grooves, and previously planned on the plane. He cuts it out with a jigsaw. He makes the surface patterns with the help of a special cutter, and as a result, the drawing comes out clear and expressive. This type of thread requires accuracy in drawing. The thread can consist of the simplest elements in execution, notches, rays, and triangles, but also the elements can be very difficult to perform. Different heights and delicate or tightly in contact with the frame and then with each other. They can create the effect of a thin and light decorative composition. In each product, the master reveals not only the artistic image in the form of a design and form, material and methods of its processing and ornaments, but also on the inner level, expressing with its own spiritual content side. The works of wood by the artist are often encrusted with bone plates. In general, the technique of bone incrustation is known to many nations, but among the Kazakhs it had its own peculiar features. Kazakh masters in this technique used figures and rectangle plates covered with large cross shapes, rounded or other patterns, often with open works through cuts. One of the most luxurious objects the Kazakh masters used, carving with bone incrustation in combination with the silver lining. Temir Begembet follows these traditions, therefore his products bear the true heritage of their ancestors. Working with the bone plates requires a great skill from the master. He applies a prepared bone ornament to the article. He marks and, if necessary, completes it. The superfluous sections of the plate the master saws and grinds. The artist, making an ornament from an ostial plate, transfers it onto the drawing or on the necessary element. Often he uses a technique of carving on bone, reminiscent of engraving. The resulting ornament or detail is grinded and ground. The surface of the sections then becomes smooth. Also, special paints are used, which Temür applies to the bone ornament. From the bone, the master cuts out all kinds of plates in the form of circles, triangles, and quadrangles, which he forms in the various geometric figures. Or he cuts out the figures of animals, people, birds, and flowers. Such work is complex and time-consuming, and requires a lot of experience and skill. By the nature of carving, painting, and inlaying with plates of bone, you can determine the master's signature. All the compositions are characterized by a balance of background and patterns, a clear symmetry and harmony. In the manufacturing of his panels, the artist uses various natural materials: felt, bone, wool, and leather. Various sewing techniques for felt, embossing on the skin, decorations with metal and bone openwork plates, painting, inserted from the long colors of stone, and much more. In the products of the master, along with the exquisite artistic lush patterns, works with extremely simple geometric ornamentation are encountered. Other works are outstanding works of the artist, where the entire front side of the panel is covered with carved plates of bone, encrusted with the stone. It is complemented by painting, or applique from felt. They bear the features of high artistic completeness and deep meaning. Perceiving the world around him on a deep level, the master is keen on not only carving wood, but also painting. He paints unique pictures in which he conveys his thoughts and feelings with the help of a brush and colors. In his paintings, he tells the story of his people and the history of his life. The master creates because he wants his thoughts and dreams not to remain only in his imagination. Embodied on the canvas, the idea becomes the property of the entire country. The artist must write what he sees, but he must see through the eyes of his soul to convey the beauty and trembling of the surrounding world with all of its senses. The brush and paints, as well as knowledge, are just tools in the hands of the master. But he creates with his heart and soul. You can't feel one way and work in another way. Temür thus shared his thoughts with us. The artist creates his own paintings as if he has dissolved into it and lives one life with the canvas until it's finished. Therefore, his work is always in demand and unique. They decorate the exposition of many museums and exhibitions in our country, as well as far abroad. The hobby of painting gives art lovers many pictures, telling about the creation of the world, about the female and male beginnings, and about the change of times, about the past and about the future. A rich palette of colors miraculously flows out of the canvas, creating images and telling us about the whole world imprinted in the picture. Simple and at the same time complex subjects helps you look into the artist's colorful world to understand his feelings and thoughts as well as aspirations. A true artist is the one who sees things not as they are, but as he himself does. You can gaze for hours into the pictures of Temir Begimbet, and returning to them the next day, you can find previously elusive meanings. Or it is a spring step, giving you the feeling of unlimited space, inspired by the poetry of nomadic life. There is a belief that a nation's image is determined by a woman. She is the nurturer of the family, of the future generations, and she guides them towards the path of truth. Maybe that's why so often in the pictures of Temir, you can see a woman who personifies the most kind and delicate creature, the female and girlish image, as if for a moment stood still under the artist's gaze. Each story is concrete, recognizable, close and yet incredibly far away. Peaceful and tranquil rhythms inherent in the state which was imprinted on the canvas is transmitted to the viewer of the painting. There is a feeling of peace and harmony. Warm colors, calmness in the images, as if they came from sweet dreams. You can feel as if you don't want to let go of the sweet embraces. The majestic nature embraces everything with the light of comfort and a slow flow from one form to another. Using the flatness inherent in folk ornament decorative art, the master created an illusory world. But it's like a mirage dissolving before your eyes, like a vision, when in a moment it will dissipate and go into an unknown distance. The grandchildren of the master also like to draw, and who knows, perhaps they will inherit the talent from their grandfather. He also tries to instill in them a sense of beauty, teaching them to select colors and to make up those simple but real compositions. Temir Begimbet, being an original talented artist, understands perfectly well that without deep comprehension of the history, customs, and traditions of his people, it is impossible to create a profound work in content, in essence a national work of art. Today, the unique products of the master can be seen not only in Kazakhstan, but also in the collections of other countries, where they adequately represent the traditional national art culture. The products of folk artists become a kind of aesthetic sign of the culture and the art of our entire people. Therefore, it is necessary to fully cover and show the interest in the creativity of the folk craftsmen, who by their work and talent have given life to ancient crafts. Folk poetry, music, dance, and artworks of folk artists who decorate and depict daily life are imbued with originality. They are distinguished by their special immediacy and artistic integrity. Folk art is the deepest connection of generations, the sum of concrete knowledge and worked-out methods of craft. From grandfather to grandson, or father to son, skills have been passed on. For centuries, special techniques and secrets of the selection and preparation of materials, and ultimately the technology of manufacturing products, were developed. These traditions still live on today in the preserved arts and crafts, the heirs of these traditional Kazakh art forms. In the next program, we will introduce you to a master who skillfully combines the natural materials, wood, metal, and stone, in creating products of amazing beauty.